are in a similar state of development at this point. So we'll play it out. We don't have ice until the 18th at any rate. So
yeah, well, a lot of
small
camps.
town hockey, they don't put the rinks in August.
Yeah, I think. Well, the Alberta Junior will start their league by then, right?
Yeah, they will. We've been watching some of the exhibition action and talking to the AJ clubs, and obviously we know a few of them along the way and some that we don't, but we're getting some measure of cooperation, let's put it that way, but it's slow coming because they're not rushing any decisions to benefit anyone else. They're looking after themselves first.
Oh yeah.
So
Tom,
where is everyone?
You mentioned pecking order, Tom.
Yeah.
Rick, do you call it Junior B League?
No, it's called the Junior A League. It's the Canadian American Junior A Hockey League. So it's focused differently than what Junior B would be. Junior B is a couple of practices a week, optional at most in most cases. Kids are not going to get the exposure nor the instruction in most cases to help them develop where they need to develop to achieve that next level on the next go round. So that's what our focus is. It's a development league, not just my boys played Junior B. I have nothing bad to say about where they played, but the league doesn't foster development and growth for players that want to continue to pursue their goals, their dreams, or however you want to phrase it.
Well, Rick,
Off Junior B.
Sorry?
I think the small towns still take it real serious. But like
yeah, we're quite happy with Vulcan and the reception we've had there.
Yeah.
But it's a startup, so it's going to have its hiccups.
Rick, what are the other teams in your league? Where are they?
Well, there's one in Stavely. It's also a new franchise this year. And then the rest are all up north. Hinton, Hinton, Vegreville, Viking, Barhead, and Cold Lake.
And they've got pretty good community support in terms of funding and that type of thing?
As far as I know, Wally, I don't know the intricacies. I'm not on the inside of the organizing. I'm just coaching.
Yeah.
But obviously my son is a part owner and behind everything. So I got pretty good information, but I don't have direct access to any of the other owners. Daryl Olson, a name you might recognize.
Yes, very much. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the commissioner of the league. That lends a little credibility.
Yes.
For those that know him, but
he's got a good reputation, good hockey mind.
Yeah.
His brother at Sept.
Yeah, I coached with Wally actually.
Well, Rick, I want to take advantage of you being on to promote development, but at that level, because players, typically they'll come up to AAA trying to go to Major Junior. They don't go to Major Junior, they'll go to Junior A. They might go to Junior A really young and bypass it by going NCAA. But right now, I'm trying to get you're looking at high-end junior players that aren't going to make Junior A, that are still motivated to get better, that want to play more serious than Junior B. In Calgary, some of the Junior B teams are pretty serious. Some, this is from what I've heard in the past, you might have people show up at practice, you might not. It was unpredictable. It was very recreational.
That's been my experience.
Very social. Now, you've coached Junior B before?
No. Mid to AAA is the highest level I've coached at. But.
Yeah. So am I right in saying that the expectation is that this level is more serious? The players will be given professional coaching. and you are a full-time coach with that team in Vulcan.
I will be, and yes, you know, you can call it professional instruction, but they'll be getting an environment where they're encouraged and given the tools to make the adjustments they need to pursue that goal. It's not going to be casual. It's going to be run just as if it were a junior A team.
Yep.
Or at least a tier 1 junior A team, or tier 2, as I guess the AJ is considered.
Yeah. Well, Rick, I'd send my kid to play for you any day.
I appreciate that.
And I think I'm going to promote Vulcan right now because you're on and you've taken over a program which gives it credibility. So to anybody out there that might be listening, if you don't make junior A, this is a step above junior B, where it is motivating for players to play in a competitive environment. But it sounds like the league is quite a bit more serious and competitive than junior B in rural Alberta. Is that fair to say?
I think that's a reasonable description of what we are, what we plan to be, and how it compares to what else is available for those that don't make the cut at the tier 2 junior A level, or the tier 1 junior A, major junior being the top level, obviously, and the AJ. So we're competing with the Alberta Junior League, players out of Saskatchewan and players out of BC that could come, players here that are going to the BCJ now because they're a private league as well.
Now, how does it compare to the BC Junior League? Their junior league has changed structure, but there was another league with smaller communities in BC that
the KI
players went to. How can you talk about that and compare them?
Well, I don't have any personal experience with the Kootenay International, the KI. I have watched a few of their games. We had a place in Fernie at one time, and we'd go and watch the Ghost Riders. It's competitive. It's definitely, in my opinion, at least, more in line, more in sync with what our objectives are, as opposed to the junior B environment. And I don't want to be seen to be putting down junior B. I just don't feel that it affords the opportunity for the players to get the instruction and to get accustomed to the environment that it requires to progress, to follow the game to its max.
Well,
Hi, Hal.
Good morning.
hi, Hal. Rick Puttick is talking to us and about his team in Vulcan, which he's been hired full time, and there's a league of a number of teams in Alberta that's above the junior B level in Alberta because it's got full-time coaches. They're trying to get players recruited that don't make the junior A league. And so junior B hockey, generally speaking, isn't serious, but in rural Alberta, it's more serious. And this isn't junior B. They're calling it junior A. So you've worked in the BC junior league with the team when it was at its prime, and a lot of kids were drafted in that league. A lot got NCAA scholarships in that league. How has that league changed from your knowledge? Are you still working with it or familiar with it?
The
You're A-League now in BC.
BC league.
Yeah.
Well, they left Canada completely. They've opened up to 10 imports from 6 to 10, which means 10 Americans They want to compete. I believe I had lunch with the Trail owner last week. I mean, they're going to compete with the United States Hockey League, which is a Tier 1 Junior A league. Our team this year has 13 players on the roster that have Division 1 commitments already, which is up from 3 last year. So everybody thinks they're going to be a little more competitive this year. Got better players, right? But they're kind of out there. Hockey Canada told all the referees, if you referee a BC game, you can't referee anywhere else. And I mean, I don't know all the details. They just did this, and so this year, next year, it's going to be a little bit of growing pain for them. But I mean, they're already playing. They just started. I don't know if it was a preseason game at Chilliwack or not a couple nights ago. And the owners have got a lot of money in the league now. One of the teams left. The team in the U.S. left and went and they bought out a Western franchise. Owners bought a Western franchise team. And then like, I don't know what happened to all those players. But you know, they're all Americans. I think they only had a couple Canadians on the team. So there's a lot of shifting around going on as there always is in junior hockey.
And the
you got to change the name to 4A, and you'll get all sorts of kids, or you know, Elite 4A. The parents will write the checks.
Well, what happened is the K now is replaced the BC Junior League, and they're a Junior A league now.
Yes. The KI was considered a Junior B league, but they've been elevated by BC Hockey because they needed an A circuit at the Tier 2 level.
Okay.
I've just been on the job as we speak.
So Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 1, then Major Junior? Is that sort of the pyramid of perceived levels of play? You know, hell, what I'm noticing is a lot of players are choosing to play Junior A hockey to get a scholarship versus put in 3 or 4 years of Major Junior and get a scholarship. So that the NCAA route now is these leagues, the Junior A leagues in Alberta and all over Saskatchewan, they're basically factories for the NCAA.
Right.
Some of them might take very young draft choices.
Yep.
To help them develop for Major Junior. But that was when I coached Major Junior, that was a predicament I faced. We had drafted a couple of kids, one from I'm not sure his name, from Minnesota, but they both went to the other league. They went the scholarship route.
Right.
So, Rick, in your league, what's the vision beyond that league? Are they trying to pursue a hockey dream, an academic dream, or you're just providing a competitive environment for players to enjoy the game and grow from the game?
It's more the former, Wally. We have some contacts that can help promote players to U.S. colleges and universities, and that is one of the objectives. As I said, it's going to be a full-time involvement. We're billeting players. They'll be on the ice practicing 4 times a week, plus 1 to 3 games on weekends. The level of instruction is going to be geared not to a social involvement, but more to a training involvement and a preparation, providing the environment that you're going to encounter if you're successful in moving forward. And again, anything below junior A, AJ level, or BCJ level, if you will, doesn't provide that in my observation, in my opinion. You can't play a casual season at junior B and then expect to jump right back into the junior A ranks. It's a totally different lifestyle, and the expectations and the pressures are different. So we're gonna try to bridge that gap for the players that haven't given up on themselves, don't see any path forward because they've been turned down in the next week or so. That's essentially what our focus is and why we're doing this. I had a son that fit that category. He still does because he's still doing it, and it's a void, I think, that needs to be filled, or at least there's enough candidates that want to fill it. And there are a number of private leagues being formed now that are trying to do the same thing, and most of them are down south right now, but there's room for it. There's a place for it.
Yep.
Tom, when you were at Sept working with the men, I think it was you, there was a junior B player that played in Cochrane.
Yeah.
And he was pretty good.
I thought he was the most skilled player on the team. He's
Yeah.
6'5", and in junior B, he scored like 120 points or something. Like, he was incredible.
You'd have to wonder why he fell to junior B though, with that skill set.
I don't know if he fell or just maybe didn't want to leave home.
That could be too.
The reasons why, guys. My son, Medicine Hat, well, Willie came and watched him, said, "You're definitely good enough to play," and he backed out the day before camp. He wasn't even going to the trial camp. He was just going to the main camp.
Wasn't for him.
A couple of guys he wanted him to play with because he was a hell of a passer, and he just didn't want to do it. So
It's
it
not
happens to some people.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah. Living on a bus for all winter,
Yeah, and that's part of what you have to, that's part of the proving ground, part of the testing, part of the preparation.
Not only just for the players, but for the coaches.
Yes, you're right, Tom.
Living in a bus was enough for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's a big commitment to do that kind of stuff, Or like in the U.S. League, we had a D3 plane, or what do you call those? One of those old
DC3s, prop plane.
Yeah, prop plane. Because we played all around the Great Lakes, eh? So instead of drive all the way around, we'd fly over them. So from Sioux City, Iowa. So.
Do you guys fly when you were in Sioux City?
Yeah, anything. The only one we drove to was the other team in Iowa, Waterloo.
Wow, the only team that I knew did that was the St. Paul Vulcans. When I convinced Stan Hubbard to buy the team, and Stan Hubbard owns KSTP TVs, and he's got they're a super wealthy family, and they use the corporate jet to fly the team around.
So this was in a corporate plane, eh? Like it was really inside. Yeah. I remember one guy had never flown. He was a Minnesota kid.
Sure.
Menard, I think it was. But anyways, the plane started up and he just turned white. He was so scared. And I don't blame him on that plane. You should
Oh God.
My first flight was University of Saskatchewan going to University of Denver, a DC-3.
Yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah, I never, if it wasn't for hockey, I wouldn't have traveled, let alone fly. So, Tom, I think while we're on the topic, and Rick and Hal, this is a good story for inspiring young players and their parents. Your grandson, his story from AAA, where he had a serious injury, but he was a high-end hockey sense, scoring offensive AAA player. And I want you to take me through his journey to where he is right now. Rick, he's the kind of player you'd love to have had. But it's typical of the situation with kids making decisions, not major junior, junior A, where he went to Saskatchewan. So Tom, would you elaborate a little bit on it so that I think the conversation would be for that middle or low end elite player that's really wants to keep playing at a high level, and that playing at a higher level, they may not recognize hockey sense as much as they should. Go ahead, Tom.
You're talking about my grandson, Aiden.
Yes.
Yeah, well, he got drafted by Regina. He was a big star in Bantam. And he played, and he was one of the only kids to make the AAA the next year because it's a grade 10 because you play 3 years. And then he almost severed his bicep in a back checking drill. A guy's skate hit him and almost cut his bicep off, and he had to have microsurgery. That was about a month into the season. That kind of screwed that season up for him. But he played the 3 years of that. But I think Regina didn't think he'd ever heal, and they dropped him. And he played 3 years in Kindersley, lived on a farm, which was a kind of a neat experience. That's where his billet was.
Be a good experience.
Yeah, he played 3 in Kindersley, and he talked to Mount Royal and Sept, and both of them said he'd make the team, but they didn't know if he'd play very much. And this team from Nanaimo, they're trying to build a team like that Trinity Western. They want to get into the CIS and U Sport. And they really wanted him, and they gave him a scholarship, and he's out there, and they're starting in Nanaimo, and they're trying to build up the level of the team. So that's what he got a bunch of Div 3 offers, but he didn't want to do. It's pretty expensive. They don't give you very much here. I don't know what exactly, but it is expensive. So, and he almost was paid as he started his own company last summer. He was working for a guy cleaning windows, and the deal is someone goes to the house and gets somebody to want their windows cleaned, and then a crew goes out there and they all split the money. And he thought, geez, instead of cleaning windows, I'm going to start my own window cleaning company. So he had 6 crews working for him this year.
Oh,
Like he made basically enough to pay. I think the rent is $1,900 a month. Him and there's another guy played in Kindersley, went out there with him, and so he's pretty ambitious guy, but he didn't want to go Div 3, and he didn't want to kind of never play, so he went to Nanaimo. So it's one of the choices you got.
That's on Vancouver Island, right?
Yeah, it's a really nice place.
I coached in the junior prep camp one summer out there with Jim Johnson. We took about 20 kids from Arizona and Minnesota. That was really a cool place. Go out on the ferry boat from Vancouver, and it was a neat place.
I think I told you guys a story about how they saved a guy's life his first night there.
Let's let the public hear it again.
Well, his dad takes him out, and they got a U-Haul, right? And he drives them out there, and that's a long drive because you got to take the ferry from Vancouver. They get there, and they drove all day, and then spent all the time. How fun it is to move into a place. They move in, and his dad's sitting having a beer on the deck, and he hears this guy scream. He hears this awful scream, and then he yells, "Are you okay?" And the guy yells, "I'm not effing okay." And they don't know. They hardly knew where they were, right? They just moved in there, so they didn't even know the lay of the land. And so he says, "You need help?" And the guy said, "Yeah." So there's a fence behind, so they kind of jumped the fence, and there's about a yard of territory and a 30-foot drop. That's what the guy had fell down. He fall down a cliff, landed on his feet in about 18 inches of. So he absolutely shattered his ankles, and his knees were pointing the wrong way, and
Oh, God.
stuck in the water. And he was, and so anyway, they eventually got down there. They had a flashlight. They found a path. They got down there, but he was inaccessible. So Mike had to climb down a tree, got himself cut up pretty good to get to the guy. And the guy's holding his head above the water, but he can't move. And his legs are kind of caught there because he must have hit so hard.
Jeez.
So Mike drags him out of the water. Aiden's phoning the ambulance and all this kind of stuff. And they're in flip-flops, and so they sent a helicopter thing, but they couldn't they couldn't get to him. So there's a fire and the ambulance across, I don't know, it's a river or a stream or something. And anyway, finally the fire guys take him to the other side, and they get to the other side, and you talk to the ambulance guys, they haul him away, and Mike said this guy never walked as far as how bad it looked. And the ambulance guy said, well, thanks a lot, we probably just would have found him dead in the morning. And they didn't even ask their name. And then they went back. They went back to the apartment. And then they start cramping because they've been running and climbing hills and all this, and then a long day. Their legs are cramping. Mike gets up to take a pee, and he doesn't know the place. And he whacks his head on a beam and knocks himself out.
Tough day.
It was quite the day they had. So
Oh, my God.
he flew back to Calgary the next day, and Aiden's in Nanaimo, and he's liking it so far, I guess.
The journey of a hockey player and a hockey player's dad.
God, that's amazing.
The one thing, and all of you appreciate this, it doesn't matter what level you play at, where you play, but, we're all examples of people that grew through the game. And we became more leaders in the game. And I don't care where a kid chooses to play or end up, but they come out of it pretty healthy people, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And I think that doesn't matter that they set high goals. That's what it is. And if they don't achieve them, they're going to enter into the real world and do things very, very well. Tom, when the choice of schools that you go to, junior A teams. Now, you mentioned, you and I have talked about 1-on-5 hockey, and he got to play 3 years in that town. Did he improve?
Well, I hardly saw him play because he's been gone away. Like that one year, the COVID year, that kind of was a wash. But he's really skilled. Like his skills are really high level. So as far as skills, he's really good. I always thought he kind of deferred a little too much, and he should have lugged the puck a little more. But as far as skating, stick handling, shooting, all that kind of stuff, being a good, he's always been a captain or assistant captain. So he's a good character guy. But it's like when I went to Bemidji, I went to Mount Royal and took the university transfer course for 1 semester. And I was talking to the guy in Middlebury, and that's a long ways away, right? And then this guy I'd played with came back at Christmas, and he was like 5 times better than last time I saw him. So I said, where the hell you been playing? And he said, Bemidji, Minnesota. And I'd never heard of it. And anyways, I wrote Coach Peters, and I was playing junior A, and I said I'm interested, and these are kind of my stats. And he said, well, it sounds like you'd have a good chance of playing, but I've never seen you play. And if you want to come, I'll give you a fair tryout. And I went there and made it. And it just happened that all kinds of guys were leaving bad situations and going there. And we ended up with a hell of a team. And 4 of the Americans played on the national team. And over the years, and two were on the 72 team that won the silver medal. And then the goalie was on 76 team. So pretty high quality guys, and Canadian guys were really good too. A lot of them went on to play pro after. But I had no idea when I went. It was a lot closer than Middlebury.
Well, just as cold as it is in Canada.
Well, you know, it's colder than Calgary because here we get sun all the time, right? But there, because it's close to water, there's not a lot of sun in the winter.
No, I know.
Here, if it can be minus whatever, and if it's sunny out, I sit on my deck and have a coffee. But you can't do it if there's clouds.
I'll tell you a couple stories. I got a text 2 days ago from one of my players from back in the 70s. He said, "Hey, coach, me and some of the guys wanted to get together and have a beer with you." And so they said, "Are you available Saturday?" I said, "Oh, yeah, that'd be cool." I haven't seen any of these kids, obviously, for almost 50 years. So they're, you know, they're old, right? I mean, they're not as old as we are, but they're old, and that'll be really fun. And then I was having dinner last night with my wife at a local pub up the street, and a woman comes in. She says, "Are you a hockey coach?" And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "I think you coached one of my kids." I said, "Well, okay, what's his name?" And he was on the team last year. I told you guys a little bit about all the issues we had on the team last year. And this was the assistant coach's son. He was really a nice kid. And I said, she just said, "I just want you to know that in spite of all the troubles that you had last year with some of those kids, a lot of the families were very appreciative of everything you did for the kids." And I said, "Wow, well, thank you." And you know, "What's your son going to do?" And she said, "Well, he's done playing hockey. He's going to do other stuff." But he actually had a really great time. He learned a lot. And we appreciated it. I'm going, "Whoa, okay, that's nice." And then she went back to a different place. I looked at my wife. I said, "That's why we do this stuff." Right there. It's not for the money.
And it just takes one.
Yeah.
I got to ask you guys, as we're speaking, I've got offered a job from the Eastern Elite Chaos organization or something, or the Chaos, I don't know what it is. EECHA. It's some program they go to school. It's kind of a, I don't know, if it, kind of a school program. I think they're I think they're going to be in one of the, kind of like your situation, Rick. I think
I'm just looking them up because
so. I don't know if any of you guys heard of this. I'll show you on my screen here. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the?
Is it a girls' program?
Yeah, that's the part I've been offered something at. Be the coordinator of some girls' program. I mean, it's so wordy, it's hard even to.
Whereabouts is it?
I think I saw Fort McLeod in there somewhere. But yeah, the thing he sent is so wordy, it was hard to get the gist of what the whole thing is. So anyways,
yeah, they're out of Fort McLeod, Tom.
yeah.
I've got their site up here.
Are they hooked up with a school?
Here, apparently it looks that way, yeah.
The Eastern Elite Chaos Hockey Academy. I think if I was going to live away from home, I would have stayed in Salzburg. Yo.
Sorry, Rick, accident.
Okay.
Hey, boys, I gotta run to PT for my knee. I'm on a photo assignment next Thursday, so I'll see you in a couple weeks, so.
Okay, next week, Rick, we're having a guest on who's written a book. He's a hockey guy, works in Ontario, but he's written a sort of a history book during the war period about a little bit of hockey in it because the guy went to Europe to play hockey and the war happened. So it apparently, I'm going to promote the book for him because it's a inexpensive, easy read, a good story. But he's doing incredible work with minor hockey associations in Ontario right now. So he'll be on a guest next week. Kerry Bracco was trying to get hold of Jay Beagle, former NHLer that is played for him in midget AAA when they won the national championship. But Kerry convinced him as a 16-year-old to play midget AA, not AAA. And when he came back as a 17-year-old, he was a leader. He grew physically. Eventually, he went to the ECHL, won the championship there. And then he went to the American League, won the championship there. And now he was 6'4". And eventually went to Washington and played about 12 or 14 years in the NHL.
Nice.
So the growth factor at the age and the proper playing where you should at the age you're at and developing, maturing physically and emotionally. And Kerry said he became a leader. He was the leading scorer in midget AA. So when he did come up to AAA as a 17-year-old, most kids would be on a junior B team playing somewhat or a lot, or on a major junior team not playing very much. And there's so many stories of guys putting in 4 years, and it's a good thing the scholarship program is what it is, because I've run into so many major junior players that have graduated, gone on and made great lives for themselves. So it's just what the sports does for people. So Hal, I don't know if you can make it next week, but I'll be promoting it a little bit more. And I was on Kerry's case all week, but he had trouble getting Jay's contact info.
Hold on.
We'll work on it the rest of the week. Take care, Hal.
Thank you. I'll log in off my phone, I think. I'll be over in Wisconsin on a photo shoot, so I'll try to get in next week, otherwise the week after. Always good to catch up, boys.
What are you photographing?
I'm shooting photos in Eau Claire, Wisconsin and La Crosse, Wisconsin for my company, because they have offices there and they're redoing their offices and they pay me pretty well to go over and take photos, but I got to go over for a couple days and scout around and take iconic photos of their town.
Good for you.
One of my friend's son played at Eau Claire.
Oh, really? Cool. I got to run, boys. Thanks. See you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I don't know if you guys ever read the article about this Czech coach. And it's really interesting. The same thing about during the war. But anyways, he was on, it was after the war, and he was playing for Czechs, and they won the world championship in Sweden. And one of the guys in the dressing room said, why don't we just stay here and tour? Because, you know, they didn't want to go back to communists. And he was underage. He was about 19 or something. Well, it ended up, of course, the KGB's got spies everywhere. One of the players reported it. He went to jail for years. And there's this story about, he tells about the different prisons he was in and all kinds of stuff like that. At one point, they were going to hang him. And he didn't even vote to go because he was afraid that he said his parents were responsible for his actions because he wasn't an adult yet. So he said they might have hung my parents. So anyways, the stuff he went through, he ended up coming out, and I met him with Johanny because what happened is when he got out of, they kept the guy, you know, he got in, eventually got out and he got his coaching certificate, went to Finland. And that's where he ended up coaching Johanny in Finland. And so Gustav Bubnik's his name. And then he eventually ended up to be the sports minister of Czech Republic. But it's an unbelievable story what happened to these poor people under the communists.
Tom, when the Czech Republic gained its independence, they ended up playing in the World Championship and they won it. And it was about the time the tanks from Russia rolled in.
Yeah, that was 68, I think.
Yeah. And that was probably the most riveting international hockey, happening of the time. Just incredible how countries around the world, we have no idea how important hockey is to their society. So, but Rick, I wish you well in all your ventures here, and I'm glad you're involved in the game, and I can't wait till you actually get a group of people in front of you and you get a chance to do your thing.
Looking forward to it.
I'm sure you do well, Rick. Be interesting. I kind of got offered the same thing a couple of years ago. Jasper was trying to put together a team.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of the teams are from up there, but they didn't end up.
It's more northern based right now. There was a Calgary club last year, but they didn't fare very well, and I don't believe they completed the season, if my information is correct.
Yeah, because the Jasper one never, but they asked me if I was interested in coaching.
Yeah. Just back to your grandson, Aiden.
Yeah.
There's a connection there. My son was a coach on that last AAA club that he played.
Okay. And I think their head coach was in Kindersley, the Royals.
Is that where he is now? I'm not sure.
I thought that's what happened. I really didn't know the coaching staff at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched quite a few of those games, and so I'm somewhat familiar with Aiden and his playing. So
yeah,
glad to hear he's doing well.
Well, he seems to be enjoying Nanaimo and should be a good college experience.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't mind no sunshine.
I know.
Well, Tom, I'm going to the national team reunion in Vancouver on the 15th and taking the ferry to Nanaimo on the 16th to visit with my brother-in-law. But it's a national team reunion. It'll probably be the last one. People are dropping like flies, of course, at our age. And in fact, two guys who had registered and paid their fees passed away before they got to attend. So I'm taking advantage of this one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping really busy and enjoying my mentorship experience, Rick. It's more than I can chew, and I really think that the only thing I'm doing that might have an effect is the mission statement exercise with Tom. The mentorship thing, I don't know what it is, but for some reason it's people at any level aren't ready. They sort of find their own mentors, I think, people that they confide in.
Hopefully they do.
Like Jordan Fenton has made a connection with Mark Howell at U of C. And that's the kind of thing that when they find somebody at another level and they establish a relationship, mentorship happens and it evolves just from the relationship. And I know Jordan contacts Mark very often and talks to him. And I think that's the secret, is saying, who do people want to connect with? Find a peer, an elder peer that you want to share information with, because every one of us is sort of locked into our little worlds and silos. And I think that as much as we know about what we do and think we can help, it doesn't make any difference until you ask for help and you realize you need it. So thank God I did when I was my first year coaching. Anyway, guys, I'm going to run here and do some mentoring. I have to call a coach I observed a practice on that, Tom, I have to apologize. I over mentored, like I didn't ask questions. It's really difficult. So I've got to get better at it, that's for sure. I'm going to take a course. Somebody's told me about a course on it that might help in that capacity. So, okay, guys, I've got to head out here.
Well, have a good week, fellas, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, good luck with that team, Rick.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Good luck, Rick. Are you out in Vulcan, Rick?
No, not yet. I'm actually going there this afternoon.